Defining philosophy is difficult, but to simplify the meaning, philosophy is when you have so many questions and the world is unable to answer them, so you go into your head to find their answers. The answers are very difficult to find, and the method one utilizes to obtain answers are the 4 R's: responsiveness, reflection, reason, reevaluation. And why do we prefer to deepen our understanding like that? Why do we want to practice philosophy? Simple: to act wise and to improve the quality of our lives. In today's video, we will be discussing everything philosophical, what it is, what are its types, and how we can implement it in our practical life. So if you're in the mood to learn and be wise at the same time, then make sure you stay tuned until the very end of this video. And while watching it, if you feel that it's a great learning experience, then don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and the bell icon. So let's start with a definition. What is philosophy? At its simplest, philosophy is derived from the Greek word philosophia, meaning the love of wisdom. It is the study of knowledge or thinking about thinking. Philosophers are people who love wisdom. So philosopher or person devoted to wisdom is someone who strives for developing skilled expertise at working out how one may be able to find complete fulfillment and satisfaction in life. So the big question is, what makes this philosopher so wise at living while the average mankind lacks in such wisdom and tend to make mistakes? Let's explore the specific skill set of philosophers have developed, asking the right questions while we tend to continue doing things wrongly. What exactly are those things? Number 1, we don't ask big questions. What is the meaning of life? What should I do with my work? What are we going to do as a society? What is love? Most of us ask these questions in our minds at some point, well, often in the middle of the night, but we are often afraid of trying to answer them. They are even considered as topics of jokes for some social circles, and we get shy of expressing them because of peer pressure. We constantly have that fear of being thought about pretentious and of getting nowhere. But these questions are very important because only with sound answers to them can we direct our energies meaningfully. Philosophers are people who are not afraid of large questions. They have over centuries asked the very largest. They realize that these questions can always be broken down into more manageable chunks and that the only pretentious thing is to think that one is above regularly rising, naive-sounding inquiries. Number 2, we are exposed to some errors of common sense. Public opinion, or what gets called common sense, is sensible and reasonable in countless areas. It's what you hear from your friends, your family, or your neighbor. The things we automatically assume to be true, and the stuff you take in without even thinking twice about it. The media pumps it out by the gallons every day. But in some cases, common sense is also full of daftness, error, and the most lamentable prejudice. Philosophy gives us the push to take all aspects of common sense to reason. It wants us to think for ourselves, to be more independent. Philosophers are interested in knowing whether an idea is practical or not, rather than simply judging it by its cover and popularity and straightaway assuming that, it must be right. Number 3, we are mentally confused. We are not very good at knowing or interpreting our own minds. We know we really like a piece of music but are unable to place a reason to it. But we just can't pin down what the issue is. Or we lose our temper but can't readily tell what we're so crossed about. We lack perspective about our own habits and characteristics. That's why we tend to examine our own minds by going inside them. Philosophy is committed primarily to self-knowledge and its central guideline, expressed by the earliest and greatest philosopher Socrates, is just 2 words long: know yourself. Number 4, we have muddled ideas about what will make us happy. We're strongly set on trying to be happy, but we go wrong in our search for it almost every day. We overestimate the hold of some things to raise the quality of our lives and underrate others. In a consumer society, we make the wrong choices because we are guided by false glamour. For example, we imagine that a particular kind of holiday or car or computer will make a bigger difference than it can. At the same time, we underestimate the contribution of other simpler and unglamorous and obvious things, like going for a walk, tidying a cupboard, having a structured conversation, or even going to bed early, which may look like they have little significance but can contribute deeply to the character of existence. Philosophers seek to be wise by getting more precise about the activities and attributes that can really help our lives go better. Number 5, our emotions can send us in dangerous directions. We are unavoidably emotional and sensitive beings, but regularly this uncomfortable fact skips from our mind. Occasionally, certain emotions like certain kinds of anger, envy, or resentment lead us into serious trouble. Philosophers teach us to ponder over our emotions rather than simply having them. By accepting and evaluating our feelings, we learn to see how emotions impact our behavior in unexpected, counterintuitive, and sometimes dangerous ways. Wow! Seems like philosophers were actually the first therapists. Number 6, we panic and lose perspective. We are constantly losing a sense of what matters and what doesn't. We are, as the expression goes, constantly losing perspective. That's what philosophers are good at keeping a hold of: perspective. Here is a story which will help in elaborating this point further. On hearing the news that he'd lost all his possession in a shipwreck, the Stoic philosopher Zeno simply said, "Fortune commands me to be a less weighed down philosopher." It's responses like this that have made the very term philosophical a good example for calm, long-term thinking and strength of mind. In short, perspective. What we call the history of philosophy is made up of multiple attempts over the centuries to report the ways in which we have been unwise. So, for example, in ancient Athens, Socrates paid special attention to the problem of how people get confused in their minds. He was struck that people didn't quite know what they were meant by key ideas like courage, or justice, or success, even though these were the main ideas that they would use when talking about their own lives. Socrates developed a method which still bears his name, by which you can learn to get clearer about what you mean by playing devil's advocate with any idea. The aim isn't necessarily to change your mind. It is to test whether the ideas guided your life are sound, hence making them easier for you to elaborate and exemplify on. So now that we have entered into the mind of a philosopher, let us see what are the branches of philosophy. The 5 branches of philosophy are starting with number 1, metaphysics, the true nature of reality. Metaphysics is the study of what is really real. Metaphysics deals with the so-called first doctrines of natural order and the final overviews available to human intellect. Number 2, epistemology, the true nature of knowledge and belief. The study of knowledge, in particular epistemology, is the study of nature, scope, and limits of human knowledge. Number 3, logic, how humans function within a society. Logic, derived from the classical Greek word logos, most often said to be the study of arguments. Logic is the study of correct reasoning. The task of the logician is the same: to give and promote an account of valid and fallacious interpretation to allow one to distinguish. Number 4. Ethics, values, and decision-making process. Ethics is the study of values in human behavior or the study of moral problems. For example, the difference between rightness and wrongness of actions, the kinds of things which are good or desirable, and whether actions are blameworthy or praiseworthy. Number 5. Aesthetics. This is the study of value in the arts or in questions into the feelings, judgments, or standards of beauty and such related concepts. Philosophy of art is concerned with judgments of sense, taste, and emotions. Now, what are those practical ways, or we can say examples from everyday, where the concepts of philosophy is implemented? Due to the limitation of time, we will only mention the 3 major ones. Firstly, in religion. Philosophy is the answer to religion. Those who point out the weakness of religious belief do so in the basis of philosophical arguments, not scientific arguments. By undermining religious arguments, philosophy allows one to question commands and rules, which in turn opens one's mind to the acceptance of other. Secondly, in the development of law and ethics. Essentially, the basis of any justice system and the Constitution are also some places using philosophy. The practice of law is in its true essence applied philosophy. They are trying to construct an argument based on evidences and facts present, which is exactly what philosophy entails. Thirdly and lastly, the consumerism policy is what drives many retail and couture brands and industries. The clearance sales and Friday sales are just methods to feed into the minds of the consumers that need to obtain more. That's it from us, guys. So how did you like today's video? Let us know in the comments below whether the experience was full of learning or not. Subscribe to Purple Hippo and ring that bell icon to get regular updates on the most enlightening uploads. See you in the next video.